Hey everybody, this is Maxine Taylor with another edition of Move Into the Magic. And as always, I am thrilled to present to you my dear friend, Catherine Carrigan, who is the #1 best-selling author on Amazon.com many times over. She, as many of you know, is a brilliant medical intuitive healer. And her readings on those in the news are so enlightening. Today, I have invited her to weave her magic on James Comey, who is in the news presently, and will be for a while to come. So, Catherine, I don't want to take up your time. I want to turn it over to you so that you can do your own magic and share your incredible gift with the world.
Thank you, Maxine. So today I'm going to be talking about James Brian Comey Jr. It's May 28th, 2017. As of today, he's 56 years old. He's a very tall man. He's 6 feet 8 inches tall, a whole foot and 4 inches taller than me. And he is a lawyer. He was the 7th director of the FBI from September 2013 to May 2017. He's married with 6 children. Now, I just want to emphasize for everybody out there, this is not a political reading, but a medical intuitive reading. And in order to do a medical intuitive reading, I have to be in neutral and read from my soul into another person's soul. Now, personally, I find it very educational to do these medical intuitive readings. It's like reading a biography. When you read a biography, you can learn from that person's life experience. You don't have to make the mistakes they did. You can learn from what they did well, and such it is. So at any rate, our souls see things from a different perspective. And on a soul level, nothing is ever really wrong. We're always just having an experience and being given an opportunity to learn and grow. Now, what's really interesting to me about James Comey, first of all, is that most people do not grow very much in a lifetime. On a spiritual level, it is what it is. And according to Dr. David Hawkins, the author of Power versus Force, who has a map of human consciousness, the average person only moves up about 5 points spiritually over the course of their entire lifetime. Mm. So even though most people are given a lot of opportunities to learn and grow, they don't really. James Comey, on the other hand, has made huge leaps in his personal lifetime. So the integrity that he brings into the world, he also brings with himself, and that has allowed him to truly learn and move forward spiritually and to develop some true spiritual chi and wisdom that he brings to everyone around him. So he is an exception in that he has really grown over the course of his lifetime, and we're going to be learning about that over the course of this medical intuitive reading. Now, on a mental level, he went to college at William and Mary, and he majored in chemistry and religion. Now, when I do a medical intuitive reading, the way I work is I always start with your overall life energy. So when I do a medical intuitive reading, I'm not comparing you to another 22-year-old, unless you happen to be 22. 50 out of 100 would be average for a person your age. So James Comey, at the moment, his overall life energy is 54 out of 100. So he has a lot of room to improve his health and his energy level. And I'm going to be talking about what that is. And, you know, as I joke with my clients, the room for improvement is the largest room in the world. So, you know, even though he's a brilliant man, he can indeed improve his health. And it may be, in my opinion, that serving in the government and being the target of both political parties has taken a toll on his physical health and his personal energy. And he needs to learn psychic protection, which I'm going to be talking about. Now, the next thing I do, once I figure out your overall life energies, I ask, what's your most stressed organ? And in James Comey's case, his most stressed organ is his heart. So his heart right now is at 32 out of 100. So 72 to 85 would be normal, healthy functioning. A lot of us overachievers, we want to get A's and everything. But if your organs are functioning at 90, they're overworking. You don't want to overwork your body. So at any rate, so how this works, I find the person's most stressed organ, and then I go into the organ to try and figure out what is going on. Now you have 4 valves in your heart: your aortic valve, your tricuspid valve, your pulmonary valve, and your mitral valve. So this is how James Comey's heart valves are doing. Aortic valve, 24 out of 100, tricuspid valve, 34 out of 100, pulmonary valve, 26 out of 100, mitral valve, 32 out of 100. So if James Comey were my client, I would definitely recommend that he have a visit with his cardiologist and undergo a stress test for his heart. I think that would be a really good idea. Now, his heart muscle itself is at about 43 out of 100. And then personally, as a health practitioner, I'm a nut about inflammation. Inflammation is like fire in your body. It breaks down your brain chemistry, your bones, your hair, your muscle tissue. And it's a primary cause of high cholesterol and one of the 3 major risk factors for cancer. So right in the moment today, his overall inflammation level is 8 out of 10. So he has too much inflammation. If he was my client, one of the things that I would recommend that he do is go on an anti-inflammatory diet. So foods that cause inflammation are caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, sugar, fried foods, and gluten. But inflammation can also be caused by stress. So just looking at Comey's physical body, even if he's mentally quite strong, and mentally and spiritually he's very, very strong, but his physical body is definitely showing the signs of significant stress. Now, cardiac circulation, this is about a measure of how well your blood is circulating in his heart, is about 40%. So I would recommend that Comey engage in daily regular exercise, good idea for all of us, but nothing where his heart rate goes over 100 beats per minute. And why is that important? When your heart rate goes over 100 beats a minute, your body has to secrete the stress hormone cortisol and adrenaline, and that causes your inflammation to go up. So if he were my client, I would recommend gentle walking. Tai Chi would be brilliant for him, and Qigong, and also swimming. And I would also recommend a weekly massage to improve his overall circulation. So in addition to an anti-inflammatory diet, I would recommend things like green juices daily, eating okra. Okra has a special fiber that scrubs your arteries, and a high plant-based diet to alkalize his body, as stress makes you more acidic. I'd recommend pomegranate juice. At least 1 ounce per day for a year removes 30% of arterial plaque. That's a great tip that we can all follow up on. Ginseng, which is a chi tonic, so your chi's in your heart. Eating walnuts, which are great for your heart and your brain. And reducing foods from soy oil, which is high in omega-6 fatty acids, and giving up not only soy oil, but corn and vegetable oils. And I'd have him basically do that oil change thing where you use olive oil at room temperature and coconut oil for any high heat cooking. The other thing that would be really helpful for him is breathing exercises, because there's an intimate connection between your heart and your lungs. And a lot of times when we're going under emotional stress, we know what's wrong, but maybe we're not even able to articulate the full extent of what's bothering us, but you can literally breathe it out. And just as they say, when mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. When your heart is not happy, your whole body, your whole physical body is suffering a little bit. Now, some people have a fragile constitution. James Comey does not. But those people like James Comey, they're like big oaks. They can put up with a lot, but when they fall hard and they're done. Now, James Comey's body type is a thalamus body type. So when I body type people, I use a system by the brilliant woman, Caroline Mine. She wrote a book called Different Bodies, Different Diets. And she names her dominant types by your dominant gland. And his dominant gland is your thalamus, his thalamus, which is a part of your brain. So a summary, the thalamus types, just this, as the thalamus collects information and files it for storage in the cerebral cortex or brain, thalamus body types collect and evaluate information. They like to be effective and tend to be perfectionists. Just as they readily take in information, they're just as willing to let it go as new data becomes available, making them open-minded and willing to change. And as I mentioned, you know, he has changed dramatically on a spiritual level and grown throughout his life. The celebrities that are other celebrities that are thalamus body types include Prince Charles, Taylor Swift, Mark Zuckerberg, Helen Hunt, Nicole Kidman, and Patrick Swayze. Now, I'm going to go back to a personality profile on the thalamus, because when I do a medical intuitive reading, I like to talk about the physical, then the energy body, emotional, mental, and spiritual. So let's go into his energy body. Now, his primary operating chakra is his seventh chakra, crown chakra. This indicates he's a deeply spiritual person and guided by a higher power in all he says he does. It also means that he's deeply intellectual and a deep thinker. Now, activities that really nourish your seventh chakra include prayer and meditation. And your chakras can either be over energy or under energy. And at the moment, today, May 28th, 2017, James Comey's seventh chakra is definitely over energy, which means that he's gone into a deeper connection with the divine in order to withstand the assaults on his psyche. Now, this is very interesting because one of the things that I teach people how to do is how to protect their energy. Now, in my view, it's all one energy, it's all good, it's all God. However, within this one energy, there are different vibrations. Now, when you are a celebrity or a person in the news, you're someone who thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly even millions of people are thinking about you and directing their psychic energy at you. It is why a lot of celebrities, I feel, actually go crazy, because unless you have very good psychic boundaries, all that energy being directed to you all at one time can really hit your aura very hard. And if he was my client, I would teach him how to cocoon. Now, if you want to learn how to cocoon, my book, one of my Amazon #1 bestsellers, Unlimited Intuition Now, I have the description of cocooning at great depth. But basically, this is a technique that allows you to protect your aura and psychically protect your aura. So even though James Comey is mentally and spiritually strong and has grown tremendously, he has a tremendous amount of energy being directed to him by the public, by people in both political parties. And it's definitely, that bombardment of energy is definitely affecting him. This would be the psychic equivalent of people throwing rocks at your house. And even if they don't break all of your windows, the constant throwing of that energy can eventually weaken your aura and take its toll, which is why I recommend something like Tai Chi and Qigong, which helps to rebuild the energy in your aura. So the psychic attacks have definitely weakened James Comey's energy, and I feel that's part of why his personal chi is as low as it is. Again, it could really significantly be better. Now, now I'm moving into the emotional level. On the emotional level, his primary emotion for the past month has been anger. Now, when I asked, is this the primary emotion that he has felt, like most of the time, it's no. Now, we have to remember that the world that we experience is the world that we feel inside of ourselves. So whatever I feel inside of me is what I feel when I interact with the world, because it's a projection. So inside of himself at the moment, James Comey feels anger. And of course, anger hurts your heart. But this is not his usual emotional mode. When I asked what is his primary emotion on a normal basis, it's actually honesty. Now, you may not think of honesty as being an emotion, but it's definitely an emotional process. So if you think about having to be honest with yourself, when I'm honest with myself, I look at the good and the bad and the ugly, and I face up to it. Now, it takes tremendous courage to be honest with yourself. And this capacity for a deep level of personal honesty, I would say, is a guiding principle in James Comey's life and has always been that way. And it's part of why he's grown so much spiritually, because he has the self-honesty to face up to things in himself and then grow from them. So this is the same capacity that he brings to our country and to our government. Face up to what's going on and grow from it. So on a mental level, I'm going to read to you a little bit about the thalamus body type. They're very sensitive to their physical and emotional surroundings. They listen closely. They notice things that other people miss. They retain information very well, and they like their environment to be organized. They have a strong inquiring mind and a need to understand how and why things they are. They have a strong sense of observation and ability to evaluate information. So they take their time to make decisions, and they're known for collecting and evaluating information. And again, they tend to be perfectionists. They're fulfilled by being rather than doing. So just hanging out in nature would be incredibly, incredibly helpful for him. Now, on the mental level, this is interesting. I found that his Myers-Briggs type, he's an ENTP, which is the debater. So some people like to debate. I'm not one of them myself. Mark Twain was this type of person. Socrates, Benjamin Franklin, Steve Wozniak, the Woz, Voltaire, Machiavelli, Barack Obama, Newt Gingrich, Mao Zedong, Henry Kissinger. These are other famous ENTPs. So they enjoy the process of being the devil's advocate, thriving on the process of shredding other people's arguments and beliefs and letting their ribbons drift out into the world. So they have a very, very strong wit, and they love to brainstorm and think big. So again, they're a debater. Now, on a spiritual level, as I said, at the moment, as I said, on an emotional level, he's feeling angry, but that's not usually how he feels. And at the moment, James Comey has a wounded spirit. Now, when I'm doing my healing work, when I find you have a wounded spirit, that means that you've suffered a wound that's not purely emotional. It's so deep, it goes all the way to the level of your soul. So the spiritual aspect of his stomach meridian is wounded. Stomach meridian at its core is all about contentment. And when it's off, we feel a deep sense of disappointment. And this deep sense of disappointment that he's feeling is hurting him at the soul level. Now, when I looked at his archetypes, this is very interesting. So the first archetype that I found that he has is destroyer. So I believe that there are some Indian goddesses, I think Kali, if I'm remembering it correct, the goddess of destruction. And we have to remember that destruction is actually a part of the natural cycle. So, for example, when there is a fire, a lot of times if woods get overgrown, people who take care of nature will actually have a fire so that things can grow back more strongly. So that means that he sees the need to break down all he disagrees with and all he feels that is wrong. So again, it's a sword of righteousness is that he's taking up. Now, another of his archetypes is mentor, which means that at a deep level, he finds soul satisfaction, not just being a teacher of others, but of guiding people one-on-one and showing them how to be effective in life and work. So if you think of this is a male version of a nurturer, especially nurturing at the mental and soul level. I know myself, I've had some wonderful mentors in my life, and they've guided me, especially mentally and emotionally. And he enjoys being a mentor to others, and I think he's very looked up to among his peers for that. Now, another of his archetypes is Avenger. And he also has a past life contract that he's pulling through that I'm going to be talking about. Now, an avenger is someone who tries to avenge what he or she sees as wrongs or evil in the world. So he sees himself as someone who puts things right. So if something's not right in their view of the world, they're going to avenge the wrong and avenge the evil. Now, another of his archetypes is priest confessor. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, James Comey studied religion in college, and he sees himself as someone that other people can come to for confession, for admitting they've done something wrong, and he's willing to listen and guide that person to a better direction. Another of his archetypes is alchemist. Now, in the medieval times, alchemists were always trying to take base metals and turn them into gold. So an alchemist is someone who takes different variables and combines them into something of greater value. And that's how he views himself, again, as trying to take the different parts of his life and of his work and transmuting them into something of greater value. And the last archetype that I found also very interesting is saboteur. Now, when I do my healing work, when I find people who are extremely unwell, a lot of people are in self-sabotage, and many people have multiple layers of self-sabotage. I just worked with a lady this past week who was not quite suicidal, but she'd just gotten out of an alcohol rehab center and was in a very bad state. And the first thing I did was I cleared, I think, 19 levels of self-sabotage. Now, when you are in self-sabotage, as a lot of people are, you're either consciously or unconsciously trying to take yourself out. You eat too much, you drink too much, you tell your boss where to go and how far, and you do a lot of destructive things. Now, James Comey's spiritual role is saboteur. Now, again, this is different from priest, confessor, destroyer, or avenger. This is like someone who sets dynamite under the railroad tracks to make the entire train go in an entirely different direction. And in this role of being the saboteur, he knows what he's doing and he's entirely comfortable with this. So it's kind of interesting to watch if you read the news, because he's not under the thumb of any political party, and he's definitely directed by, he has a strong sense of inner direction of what's right in his mind, and he has no trouble sabotaging what he feels is not right. Now, on a scale of human consciousness, I think the one thing that we can, whether you like him or don't like him, one thing that we can all really admire about him is that he has grown tremendously in this lifetime. Now, if you're a fan of Dr. David Hawkins, who's now deceased, author of Power versus Force, you'll be familiar with a map of human consciousness. And it goes from 0 to 1,000. Jesus, Buddha are 1,000. Anything below 200 is not in integrity and destructive to life. 310 is willingness. When you're willing to face up to what's going on with you in your life. He's definitely willing. 400 is reason. Now, James Comey's current level of consciousness is 485, which means that his level of consciousness is higher than the last several presidents that we've had. He's higher than George W. Bush, higher than Barack Obama, definitely higher than the current president, Donald Trump. And if you study spirituality, the higher your level of consciousness you have, the more powerful you are, the more impact that you have. Now, when you're in the high 400s, you're guided by reason and logic. And although he may appear tough on other people, he has definitely been equally tough on himself, and he's developed tremendous spiritual wisdom in the process. He's overcome many personal failings in order to make this huge leap in one lifetime. When I looked at what has he personally overcome in himself, fear, insecurity, unworthiness, feeling not good enough, and intimidation. And he thinks big picture, rethinking. So back to you, Maxine.
Wow, that was absolutely fabulous. I love the work that you do. I know that that is what you came here to this planet to share with us. I want to corroborate something that you've been talking about. For those of you who study astrology, Comey's birthday is December 14th, 1960. He's a Sagittarian. His sun is in 22 degrees of Sag, and transiting Saturn is sitting on his sun, let's say between June and October. This is a time of great personal strength. It's when you take charge, and I would dare to say he is going to be continuing this growth that you've so beautifully described over the next several months as he is more front and center, and as a Sagittarian takes a stand for the truth. So I hope that all of you in our audience have enjoyed my dear friend Catherine Carrigan. She will be back. I always love to have her on air because of the wisdom she imparts. So join us again next time when once again we move into the magic. And just keep in mind that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Bye for now.